stunning from Mike Pressler last night. I'm joined by Deneen Borelli, is Outreach Director at Freedom Works and a Fox News contributor, and Basil Smikle Jr. is the president and founder of Basil Smikle Associates and an adjunct professor at Columbia University, and he is also a contributor to The Hill. You know, you think back, and in this piece last night, they showed the video of instantly people protesting in the streets. They put rapist signs on Mike Pressler's, on the front of his house. Everybody was sort of immediately assumed to be guilty in this case. And you know, that once the case goes away, these people's lives are affected forever. You know, what have we learned from this? And we think about UVA, and we think about Ferguson in the context of all of this as well, Basil.
Well, on the one hand, I think there are some concerns around rush to judgment because people's lives are affected. My only concern about that is that you want to err on the side of caution, because if the allegations were true, rushing to judgment against the victim or potential victim is equally tragic. So I'm sad to hear that the coach has gone through what he's gone through. There did seem to be a tremendous racial component, obviously, to this, that the prosecutor himself sort of stepped into.
Right, Mike Nifong, who is the other person who lost his job, but he's the only one. Thank goodness.
He did lose his job. But I think the UVA case is important because I think there's a journalistic component to this that needs to be addressed.
Yeah, there's a pile-on, Deneen, before the evidence is even out there. It's almost like there's a process now that is practiced and kicks in. Al Sharpton shows up, the protests begin, and, you know, whoa. Yeah,
and it becomes a circus, because you mentioned Al Sharpton. He's been involved in a number of circuses and has not been held responsible for his words or his actions. But I blame the media in this as well, because really the media should do its due diligence. They should be a responsible source to source out what the information, the details of the case are before a rush to judgment, just as Basil mentioned, the rush to judgment. You had this coach who was Coach of the Year, turned into the Criminal of the Year, basically, because he was standing up for his team and standing up for waiting for all the facts to come out. But, you know, again, you had the media that weighed in on this, and it just really exploded from there.
I mean, these young men at one point faced 30 years on a case that there was no medical evidence. There was scant little evidence that pointed in their direction anyway. But, you know, and everybody was on this bandwagon. It seemed like it happened because there was not enough investigation to figure out whether or not it did. And he talks in this next soundbite about what he was advised to do by the university, by Duke University at the time. Listen to this.
I was actually advised early on to distance myself from them, and at that time that was like blasphemy. You're telling me that? We don't run. We don't quit. You know, that's not how we're made. You finish. You sign on. You finish what you start at all costs. You know, that's it. You finish it.
You know, you think about other people who've been in these situations, you know, and you think about at the University of Virginia, and everybody, I think, feels like, you know, obviously bad things happen in the country. So you want people, as you say, to be able to come forward and to tell their story. And I think everybody wants to, obviously, we all want to preserve that. But the problem is that there's no process, and that people don't respect the fact that the process has not yet taken place.
I do think there is a respect for the process. I think what's problematic, and going to your point about the media, there are two things happening at the same time. There are folks trying to engage in some level of journalistic responsibility to report on the facts, but to be fair to both parties. But at the same time, we live in a 24-hour news environment where you've got Twitter and all kinds of social media sort of compounding the situation, reinforcing the conversation in the negative or positive way. And it's hard for individuals to weed through that to actually get to the facts. So there has to be some balance.
Some of this was agenda-driven with Mike Nifong. He was up for a tight re-election, and so he had his own personal agenda. But if you're an individual, you could be someone who could be in that position as well. And if you don't have the resources, money,
like
the
Darren
PR
Wilson,
machine behind you, like the big companies and universities have, you're vulnerable to this situation as well. So this could happen to anybody.
But what I will say very quickly is that it's clear that this coach did care about his program and his athletes, and the fact that he went to them and said, look, you all need to tell me the truth here, I think does show some integrity on his part. part.
He's turned a Division II team in Bryant into a Division I team, and they beat Syracuse. And he says he's not leaving, even though he's gotten huge offers to go to other programs. He said, these guys were loyal to me, and I'm staying here. It's a great story that was hit last night. Thanks very much, you guys. Good to see you both.